Right, so our sweet pastry has just come out of the fridge. Okay, it's hardened up nicely. Okay, it's rested. It's been in there about 35 minutes. Okay, just make sure you get all the cling film off. Don't leave the cling film on, whatever you do. Okay, so we're going to roll this out. All right, so I've got a tart ring here. All right, so we're going to roll it out. I'm going to do 2 tarts. Okay, then I'm going to fill them in another video. All right, so we're going to go through rolling out. We're going to blind bake them. Okay, so we're going to go through blind baking and sort it out. Right, so again, pastry's in a circle already. Okay, we need a little bit of flour. We don't need a lot of flour. We can always add some more. Rolling pin. Okay, we're going to roll a little bit. We're going to move. Okay, roll, move. Try and keep it in a circle, yeah? So if you roll every time and then give it a quarter turn, it's going to keep in a rough circle, okay? It doesn't matter if it doesn't go in a circle, but I find it easy this way because then I can keep my pastry nice and even, okay? I don't get like big thick bits, and also it doesn't stick on the bench. So if you get into the habit, every time give it 2 rolls, 2 or 3 rolls, give it a move, okay? And it just becomes habit then, and you get, so we're probably looking for about what, 3mm thickness for a nice tart. We don't want it too thin because the tarts I'm going to do are going to obviously have fillings in the middle, so we don't want it too thin because it's going to break. So you're going to want it a bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit more just so we have some excess, because we're going to blind bake it, then I'm going to trim the excess off. Okay, so we get a nice sharp edge. So I think we're about right there. We're going to roll this up on a rolling pin just so we can move it to one side, so I can bring in my tart case and a tray. I'm using a silk pack mat because I like to use an open bottom tart ring. 1, it's easier to get out, and 2, you're going to get a nice crispier pastry. Okay, the tart ring has just been gently buttered. Okay, so a little bit of butter. So we put our pastry on our ring. Okay, and then we just need to gently just let it drape in a bit, yeah? Okay, let the weight of the pastry push to the bottom of the pastry case. We can give it a little bit of a press onto the sides of the ring. I'm just using my thumbs and my fingers, okay? So each side of the tart ring, just give it a little bit of push down, but don't push too much because we don't want it too thin. We're just pushing against the ring so it stays there. Okay, so it's now all in. I'm just going to gently very gently trim off the pastry. Just going to trim off all the excess. Alright, which we can ball the excess up and we can put back in the fridge, but don't overwork it. Remember, we want nice short pastry. And now we're just going to go in and we're going to lift our pastry up a little bit, yeah? So I'm going to lift it up maybe like 1/2 centimetre above the ring, okay, because it's going to shrink a little bit, but we don't want it to shrink too much because we still want a nice full tart. So just going around, make sure it's nice and even, make sure it's in the corners, okay, make sure we've got a nice sharp edge. And we lift up a little bit. Make sure it's nice and even, and then we're going to put this into the, I'm gonna put it in the freezer, okay? But fridge, just to chill it down for a minute before we blind bake it, and then I'm gonna do my other case, and then we're gonna bake them. Right, so I've done my 2 tasks. I just want to bring your attention to my extra pastry, okay? So I've got all my excess pastry, but what we don't want to do is, you know, just scrunch it all together into a big bowl. Or ball, sorry, not a bowl. I'm just gonna lay it on top of each other and push it together, okay? Again, we took all that time and effort to make sure our pastry is nice and, you know, short, and we took our time not to knead it too much. We developed the gluten. So all I'm gonna do is push it all together, and then I'm gonna cling film it up and put it in the fridge for another time, yeah? So you can see that I'm not actually kneading it, I'm just pushing it together, okay? So we're not gonna end up with tough pastry, so we can actually use it again, yeah? So I'm gonna wrap this up, put it in the fridge for another time, okay? Right, so now we're gonna get ready to blind bake, okay? So our tart case, it's been in the freezer just for 10 minutes, just to sort out. I've got some cling film here, okay? So I'm gonna use cling film to blind bake, but this is catering cling film, yeah? It's not cling film you buy at your supermarket, okay? This stuff will not melt. So if you're at home, use, you know, greaseproof paper, okay? I like to do like this because then we can reuse, keep reusing these again and again, okay? So cling film on the bottom, or greaseproof paper, enough to cover the completely, yeah? And then in the box next to me, I've got a mixture of there's some old rice in there, there's some baking, there's some beans, there's some peas, okay? So this is gonna act as a weight to hold our pastry down to get a nice, sharp pastry case, okay? It's gonna stop it from shrinking and sinking down in the tin. So I've completely filled that, okay? And then we're gonna pull in the sides of the cling film, okay? And then naturally the cling film's gonna contract a little bit, and we'll be able to lift that out, okay? So that tart is ready for blind baking, okay? So we're gonna blind bake that on about 150 degrees for about, you know, 30 to 45 minutes. We want it nice and golden, we don't want it burnt, so nice and slow.